Hui. I am the co-chair of the festival and also a curator at MoMA. For over 50 years, our festival has been guided by the spirit of discovery to present exciting works by emerging directors. We hope that you'll join us during the festival to discover your new favorite directors. And please check out our program at newdirectors.org. Our work is not possible without the support of our funders. Film at MoMA is made possible by Chanel. Additional support is provided by the Annual Film Fund. Rolex is the official partner of Film at Lincoln Center. Film at Lincoln Center funding for new directors' new films is provided in part by Anne Victoire Oriole and the New York State Council for the Arts. American Airlines is the official airline of Film at Lincoln Center. Today, we are excited to present writer-director Constance Tsang. And her debut feature, Blue Sun Palace, making its US premiere. This beautiful work immerses us in a small community of migrants in Flushing, Queens. Far away from home and family, the characters lean on each other for protection and comfort. Precise and assured, the director draws us into their world shaped by hardship, love, and quiet dreams. The 16mm cinematography by Director of Photography Norm Lee adds depth and a rich texture, perfectly complementing the film's restrained and minimalist style. This film features a stellar cast, including Lee Kang-sheng, a longtime collaborator and muse of Tsai Ming-liang, director, as well as Wu Kexi, also a Taiwanese, whose flourishing transnational career includes roles in films that are often featured in major international film festivals. She will be joining the director at the Q&A after the screening, so I hope you will all stay. The film will premiere at Cannes Critics Week, where it won a special jury prize. And the film is being distributed by Dekanalog and is going to be released here in the US later this month, so you can tell your friends about it. Please welcome Constance Tsang and Wu Kexi.
Taking a moment to take this in.
Thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us. It makes me so happy to see so many familiar faces that have been a part of this film's journey and also my own personal filmmaking journey. This is a New York story. We shot it in 18 days, predominantly in Flushing, where I grew up. It was made with a small but passionate crew, some of who are here tonight. And it is made with memories and a deep love for the people and the communities that shaped me. Thank you, MoMA, Film at Lincoln Center, Frances Hui, and the tireless work of your New Directors, New Films programming team, staff, and of course, my collaborators who got us here. To my crew, I'd like for you to stand for a moment so we can give you the very much deserved applause. I hope you'll stay for the Q&A, and we are so happy to be home. Thank you, guys.
Hi everyone, I'm Kexi Wu, the actress of the film. I'm so nervous and so happy to see you all here. And I remember we shot the film back in 2023, wintertime in New York City. It was really intense, but then because we all love cinema so much and we care about the people that we portrayed, that's why we finished the impossible shooting within 18 days. We'll be back and hope to hear about your thoughts and then enjoy the blue subtitles. Thank you.
Congratulations, what a great film. Constance, you mentioned in the introduction that you grew up in Flushing. So can you tell us about your experiences with the immigrant community and how the idea for this film originated?
Absolutely. Thank you guys for staying and watching. So, yes, I grew up in Flushing, and a lot of the story was based on how I witnessed, I think, my parents coming to America in the 1980s. A lot of the story is really about my observations of them and the way that they moved throughout this really specific experience in this world of New York City. And of course, like all of that is in the context of when I was writing this film. So 2019, 2020 was when I wrote the first couple of drafts. And during this time, there was a rise of Asian hate crimes in the United States. So I'm specifically thinking about the Atlanta spa shootings and another case that was in Flushing where a massage parlor worker who died during the police raid. So all of this was in the context of the catalyst of this film and the intention of this film. So a mixture of societal and also the personal experiences.
The film is set in Flushing and it's in fact shot there, but we see very little of the neighborhood. The film is almost shot entirely in the interior, so making it equally site-specific and site-invisible. Can you talk about that decision?
Absolutely. We shot wides, and there was a period of time where during the edit, those shots existed. But what I always felt was necessary is that we saw the film through the lens of these specific characters. And I really wanted to create the vision of like their day-to-day life and their existence through what they saw. And whether that meant like a bubble that was a place where they created family, or whether that was their own sort of like boundaries, that was something that I wanted to create visually, but also tie into the thematics of this film. I wanted to make that very clear.
There are so many reasons to love this film, but I have to say that I immediately fell in love with the opening take. It's a long take, handheld, about maybe 4 minutes long, as the two lovers are sharing a meal of chicken. And the camera pans back and forth between them, capturing a moment of intimacy as if like there's nothing else in this world. This take is such a bold display of confidence and emotional wit. It's immediately clear to me that the director has a distinctive command of time, movement, and image, the very essence of cinema. Can you tell us about this opening take and also the use of many long takes in this film?
So the opening take specifically was something where I wanted us as an audience, along with Didi, to fall in love. You know, it was really important to me that this was a moment of intimacy that I really wanted to be a part of and feel a part of. And I really do want to give a shout out to my DP, Normally, who I know is here. We shot it in 2 takes, you know, and I feel like the sort of intuition that he also had alongside the characters and the sort of wavelength that we were all in the scene, like that made the shot happen. And I think sometimes it's okay to be really patient with time. because it takes time to fall in love. Yeah, for me at least.
And how about the use of long takes to film this work?
That was something that I had written already in the script, so I think to write for long takes, it requires a different kind of writing. And I think for the long takes, a lot of it has to do with how we're understanding the world that is inside the frame. I think it also has to do with the decision to edit in this particular time, where it's scenes that are put together that really create meaning rather than shots that create meaning. And I really wanted to do this. And I think for the actors especially, is something that is, I think it is much more enjoyable rather than cutting, through different camera setups, because it feels like we're experiencing real time with them.
So, Ke-shih, can you talk about the experiences for the actors? Because it's actually hard to be in a very long take. Did you rehearse or did you have room to improvise?
I happened to, participate in some of my previous films with the way we make the film is also like with long takes, and also like I act with non-professionals and very crazy shoots, like within 10 days, 7 people like that. So for this kind of shooting for Busan Palace, it's kind of like I'm familiar with it, but then I'm not familiar with how to shoot and how to work with people in the US. That's my first experience. And I really love the long take exercise. So I studied acting when I was a stage actor. Yeah, so, and also I love, and so like, it's like, it takes time for my character to get rid of or to experience the process of grieving. So this kind of like long takes really help my character to feel what's going on, and then because my character, I couldn't, forgive myself not to help Didi at the moment, and then there's really complex, and I was so confused when playing her. So this kind of like slower, burning vibe, quiet set really helped me a lot. Yeah.
It's a different way of creating intimacy, I think, with the audience as well.
Yeah. And then the long take of the massage. Why are you laughing?
I don't know. Massage is good.
Well, yeah, we improvise a lot on many of the scenes, but then for the long take of the massage scenes, we did rehearse a lot, right? Because we work with the intimacy coordinator and also action choreographer for the push and the fall in order to protect me, not to really hit myself on the floor. And for that scene, we practiced a lot, yeah, because to make sure everyone was mentally not hurting, yeah, and also like to make sure we can find better way of acting on set, yeah.
But did the actors have the freedom to improvise at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the way that we had worked when we moved into actually shooting the scene was, so first of all, the actors, we had about 2 weeks of rehearsals with them, and they understood the script really, really well. They knew exactly what emotional beats were required, I think, from scene to scene. And so on set, I would have the actors basically rehearse without any emotion the scene itself. And where were they moving, what was the blocking, and then from there, we would improvise and adjust and shift to figure out what actually the scene was about, how we can make it better. And I think maybe 1 or 2 takes we play the scene as is, but then we would have the actors basically improvise 1 or 2 takes in their own sort of dialogue and make sure that the blocking felt really natural to them. And all of this, like, we saw before the cameras rolled. As we're shooting in film, nothing was really wasted, so we saw everything, we knew what they were gonna do, and it was basically like a controlled improvisation.
It's impressive how the characters are portrayed in the film. Even with only subtle hints about the past, we feel that these people or these characters are fully established and fully present. Take Dee Dee, for example. She appears in the film for only about 30 plus minutes, but her presence basically resonates throughout the film. So can you talk about shaping your characters?
And so much, I think, of Dee Dee's impression on us as an audience and also within the film is because it's played by a tremendous actress. I think Hai Peng was someone who I knew immediately was so charismatic and was her and was filled with so much love and optimism and magnetism that to feel her loss for me would be something that was deeply troubling. And I knew that it would have that, I think, effect that would linger throughout parts 2 and 3, I think.
And Kashi, we actually know the least about your character's past, but there is a lot of pain and loneliness, like, in her. I wonder if you had to imagine what she went through in order to play that role, and what sort of discussions the two of you had about this character and her past.
Actually, we shot a lot about her past, but then through editing and then but then so my character was really full when I wrote scripts. But then I wouldn't say right now it's not full. It's like it's still like interesting because remember you told me you have some thoughts about editing that. Amy is someone who is always thinking about the future.
Yeah.
She has her own American dream. That's why when editing, she had this kind of like arrangement. But then our collaboration is like, I remember the first time we met, I felt like it's really interesting because we have many things in common because I also like did so much research. I was so interested in all the news she was reading. For example, like the mass shooting and all the Asian crime stuff like that. I was in Taiwan, but then I was so curious about what happening in the world. So I was pretty familiar with this theme, And then so we met up and we discussed a lot about the characters, and I remember that we made a very interesting decision that we wanted to change Amy into more like she is fond of Dee Dee. That was not in the script like originally. That before it's like she is more straight, And then also like so through discussion we try to find the character. But then around discussion, I found the character while I was in New York City because I learned how to do the healthier massage skills from my masseuse. I need to work with massage parlor, and then I hung out with the masseuse and try to know more about their joy, their sorrows, and then why they, despite all the difficulties, they still want to stay here. And also I work in a restaurant and then walk around the city and then try to take subway by myself and then...
You worked at a restaurant here?
Huh?
You worked at a restaurant?
Yeah, the restaurant that we shot in the scene, actually Little Pepper. Yeah. She did. She worked in a restaurant. It was fun. And while I was, taking somewhere or living in New York, and I saw some daily news, and I witnessed a crime on the street. Actually, but I don't want to get into details. But then, and also I visited 9/11 Museum, and all the things I saw, experiences, helped me to shape the character. And also, I was also going through a grooming process of my own personal experience. So that's how I put myself and then also put the things I absorbed while I was in university into the character.
This film reminds me a bit of Tsai Ming-liang's work, the Taiwanese director, not only simply because of Lee Kang-sheng, who is seen as the alter ego of the director, but also through long takes, the themes of loneliness, alienation, and then there are some like recurring motifs in Tsai Ming-liang's works, like the water leak, the neck pain, the massage, and even the last long take of Lee Kang-sheng like gazing out at the sea. But that said, your film clearly bears your own directorial stamp. I find it as a nice, interesting dialogue with Tsai's work. I wonder if you can talk about your references.
It's funny, I mean, when we were just talking downstairs about the retrospective a little bit, I think it's something that I really took away from Tsai Ming-liang's work is the way that he really understands, I think first of all, time and staying in a scene and what actually, how can I say it? What actually is like a meaningful cut. And so I think about days quite a bit. And of course, I also think about, you know, when we're working with Cheung, I think there's something about incorporating his own body into this character. And I wanted the film to feel, I wanted this character to feel connected to him. So I think the mixture of course, Tsai's work and also Xiaohang's own sort of persona, I think permeates through what we're seeing in the frames. But a lot of the long takes, it's, you know, I think about directors like Chantal Ackerman, I think about Bellatar quite often, and I think about the way that these artists have been able to work in time in a way that we don't really see anymore. So, you know, a mixture of things. And recently we were promoting the film in France, and we had one moderator ask me about Vertigo, which is a film that I know and I love dearly, but I didn't think about for this movie, but there are so many also themes that are permeating, I think, in this film and also in conversation with Hitchcock. So I think at the end of the day, we're sort of a amalgamation of all the experiences in the films that we love and take in. So that's, I think, how I can answer that question a little bit.
How was it like working with Lee Kang-sheng for both of you? He is someone with a completely like singular aura as a person in real life and also on screen.
Yeah, well, when I read script, I didn't picture Cheung's character like that. But then when I met him before we started to do the preparation, and then I remember like I was a bit confused, and I was really like, you know, like the end of the world. I don't know how impossible that my character can, you know, like, yeah, try to find chemistry with him. But then, as soon as we started to rehearse, and then suddenly he would constantly give us like cold jokes, you know. It's really funny, and then he would come out with like very funny stuff, and then immediately that. At that moment, I knew, okay, that's because, and also I was thinking, because the way he delivered the dialogues is in a very slow speed, but then my Amy, or I speak very fast, but when I started to rehearse with him, I immediately know that, okay, that will be interesting, because we are so different, too different. That's why Amy would think, okay, she's very curious about this man, especially Didi's man. And everything makes sense now. Didi likes him, but then that's why Amy was not in front of him. But then later, you know, when she wants to leave Didi's life or curious about everything about herself, and also Didi, that it all makes sense that she kind of like falls in love with him. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would add to that he works in his own time. And I think that's what makes it so interesting when we're seeing characters interact in that way. That, like, I think her way of understanding time is very different than I think Xiaohang's, and I think that causes tension for me and ultimately drama.
We can take some questions from the audience. Anyone?
We enjoy watching. Actually, my question is kind of like silly. I just want to know what dishes do they make to make the girls cry? Like, what's a dish that you make in the movie?
The dishes, the food. I mean, you ate it, so you would know better than I do.
I was focusing on acting. Oh, I forgot. It's like a very normal, like Chinese or Taiwanese dishes, meals that we would. Yes, it's like with fish or tofu and like. Just really delicious, food from hometown. That's fine. So that's why the girls will cry because food in the form of food for us, for food for immigrants, usually like the smell of the hometown, the smells of our moms and grandmoms, and smells of everything from our hometown. That's why. Yeah, I felt that's why people or people from other countries, they usually prefer to, right? Question over there.
I wanted to say I felt like the film was really assured both stylistically and thematically, so it was just really impressive to see your work, both of you. The question I had was about the karaoke scenes in the film. I felt like they, played such a role with the two women who both had these scenes in the karaoke with Lee Kang-sheng's character. And I was curious, what was the sort of thought behind perhaps like the song choices as well as just what those scenes meant on a character level.
I don't know if it's going to be a disappointing answer, but literally the song choices, I was procrastinating when I was writing, and I knew that I really love Fei Long, and so I was just going through like my Spotify playlist, and that was the song that I was like, oh wow, like this would be great in the movie. So that was how we kind of ended up with that song, and I think it worked for the film, but in the way that the song actually changes from scene to scene and in the intentions of the characters, in the beginning, especially with Xiao Kang and Hai Peng, it was a song that was bonding, and it was about love, and it was about feeling what it was like to be in the feeling of the presence of another and to be absorbed by someone. And I think when it changes to the way that a song is used with Kashi, it has to do with grief and an absence and how that song still permeates with the character. And again, like going back to the way that we're talking about Hai Peng's character being able to permeate through the second and third acts, I think it has a lot to do with that spiritual quality of the song, and that we're tied to her memory and we're tied to her presence.
For this lovely film, and congratulations. I thought the balance of tenderness and devastation and those tiny moments of joy were so impactful. And my question for you is surrounding the use of film for this. I know it's your first feature, and I'm curious, as someone who's working on a film myself, shooting on 16mm film, what was that experience like, and what advice would you have to someone shooting on something so delicate and precious, and yeah, just how was your experience with that?
Of course. So with shooting on film, I had shot on film before for like 2 shorts that I did in film school, and I also had a working dialogue with my DP, and I think something that I really love about using celluloid as a medium is that it makes everyone so much more present, and it makes everyone so much more precise, because you can't really have so many takes. Film is very, very expensive, so we kind of like need to like get it. And going a little bit back and talking about preparation, and what advice I would give is that always know what you are going to shoot. Make sure that you know exactly how your actors are moving, whether that is through improvisation, and understand, I think, that yes, there are moments of magic, but it has to be a little bit like you know the sort of controls for such magic to happen. And I would say that just make sure you know exactly what you're shooting before you say action.
I just thinking of three words: realism, language, and discourse, right? And I really thought that it was extremely realist the way you filmed this movie. And I appreciate very much how you use language, and particularly in this moment where you're saying you're protecting the gaze of the characters and the world is in their language, not in English, right? And I love that. And also the simplicity of the discourse, because it was extremely deep, right? And so I just wanted to share that and listen your choice of this political decision, what I think it is a political decision. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
That's another question. One question.
Hi, I agree with everything that was just said, but I guess my question, you sort of mentioned the origin of this story, and I feel like in watching this movie there was a vulnerability to these characters, but they also I felt the protectiveness of them, and I'm just curious how you watch that line in writing these characters, like wanting to protect them, but also wanting to show their vulnerability. Or maybe I'm just making that up. No, I thank you for that question. I think, you know, when you're writing characters, so much of it always comes from, or at least for me, like the process that I'm writing the characters, a lot of it comes from an extension of myself, you know, things that I wish could happen, things that I wish about myself that would happen. So I think that vulnerability, first of all, has to feel like it's coming from me. And, you know, walking that fine line, I think when you're putting these characters in the context of the story, it already creates a kind of disconnection between you and the actual material. And when you have actors coming in, especially like with Keshi and the rest of the cast, they bring in so much of their own artistic collaboration into it that it feels like this character is no longer the one that I had written, and it becomes theirs as well. So I think that kind of fine line between vulnerability and also protection is because of their artistic contributions to the characters.
Well, the film will be released here later this month, and you can watch it again and tell your friends to watch it. And please join me in thanking Constance and